You know, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I got invited to this party by my friends. Really, I was just a designated driver because I was the only one who had a car. And I got really drunk. And there was a pool in the back. This was like a really nice house, and they had a pool in the back, and there was like a bunch of girls that went in there. And then later on, these two guys joined them, and like as soon as these like guys got on the pool, and these guys were like really good looking, like just your in shape, conventionally attractive, like chads, and they immediately just started like talking to each other and cozying up to each other, and I was really drunk, and I'm very, I'm kind of an ugly guy. I'm not like some freakishly ugly person, but I'm just not a good looking guy. And I was so drunk that I also took my shirt off and I jumped in the pool. And like when you ever see those videos where like people pee in a pool and then everybody else finds out because of some like color indicator in the pool. I don't know if that's actually true. I think that's a myth. But you see like these funny videos and how everybody like kind of just starts swimming away. That's kind of what happens. So I get in and they immediately swim to the other side. And I'm like, why are you guys going away from me? Like, you're acting like I have like AIDS or something. And I actually said that. And they're like, I don't know, man, you're kind of just freaking us out. And at the time, I kind of knew what it was all about. It was about my appearance, and I just didn't have that. I didn't meet that threshold of attractiveness to be like acting that way. But I was just so disheartened because I was like, I'm doing the same thing you did, but now you're like morally judging me for it because I don't meet a certain aesthetic criteria that I can't control. And looking back on it, I should have never done that. I should have stayed in my lane. But the point I'm trying to make is your personality is dictated by other people. The person that you're allowed to be in society, how you can behave, the opinions you can have, the jokes you can make, how you can behave around other people, especially the opposite gender, is dictated by them, and your personality is a reflection of the boundaries that they set for your behavior. In other words, your appearance dictates your personality to a large degree because of the feedback of how other people treat you, which in turn forms your self-image and core identity. And this tends to happen particularly around high school, and it really solidifies there, and it does not change much later in life. So, where am I trying to get at with all of this? What I'm trying to get at is a lot of young guys, they don't realize this, and they go around trying to act like somebody they're not. You ever see like these gym cells where you'll have these guys that have very small, frail bone structures and like very poor jaw development, but they have like these muscles that are not even that big because their joints are so small that their like maximum capacity for how big their like biceps can be is limited. But they walk around trying to act like they are Chad and wearing like really fitted shirts, but it just comes off as really cringy, and you can see their like horrible posture just by working out from receding jawline, which causes their neck posture to compensate to open up their airway. I'm getting a little too off track here, but my point is, don't be that guy. I know it's part of the growing pains of a young man. You go out into the world and you try all these different personas and you see how people respond to them before you figure out where you belong. But that's the point. It's a growing pain, and you're supposed to get over it and learn your position in the world. And some guys just don't. They keep continuously trying to be something they're not. And you see this movement a lot now with these look smaxers and these guys that are trying to get surgeries thinking that'll make them look better, but really they don't. If you look at the track record of all cosmetic surgery, people look horrible. They look worse than they did before. It's actually kind of sad and funny. Um, you know, you just have to accept what you are and try to be the best in that domain. Some men are meant to be beta providers. If you're not a naturally genetically superior male, your inherent role is to be a beta provider. Your inherent role is stability, reliability, responsibility, paying the bills on time, making sure the rent's paid, uh, you know, being the emotional support for your partner. That's your role. You're not meant to go around swiping on Tinder or sleeping with a bunch of different girls. And I'm sure you've tried it and, it probably didn't work out too well for you. Chances are if you're watching this video. Because, if you're a Chad, you're probably not going to be watching this type of content. Generally. There's always exceptions. A lot of guys, they'll hear me say, just accept your role as a beta provider and try to be the best beta provider you can. And they'll think, oh my god, that's such a cope. You're coping, But it's like, no, you're coping. You're going around browsing these forums, trying to figure out how to change your genetic destiny and your inherent role in society through some freak surgery or whatever. Or, deluding yourself into thinking that you, with your 100 IQ and piss poor education, is somehow just going to find some secret gem on YouTube on how to become rich or some mindset trick, and then you're going to be rich, and then all the girls in high school who rejected you are going to go, oh no, I was so dumb, how did I not see all that underlying potential in him? You're fantasizing. Stop. You're fantasizing. You're coping. I'm not coping. The guy who accepted his role as a nice guy beta provider and is trying to do that role to the best of his ability, that's the guy who's living in reality. That guy that you call a cuck, that guy that you call a beta, who is walking around with his partner and getting her nice things, who you think, oh, he's coping, he's a cuck, he's a simp. No. He's living in reality. He's fulfilling his genetic destiny, which is the only way you can maximize your happiness limit that is destined for you. You're coping. You're choosing to stay miserable and alone rather than just be a beta provider and get into a relationship, which is the best you can do. You're coping. Here's the best part, though. It's not all doom and gloom. Once you accept your inherent role, your goal should be to be at the top of that role. So what you need to do is, you need to understand that there's leagues in society, and your goal should be to be towards the top of your league. So if you live in a small town, you should try to be the most successful guy in that small town. Don't try to go out to these big cities, which are always full of, on average, better looking and higher IQ people, where you're just gonna be towards the bottom of the totem and probably be working as a DoorDash driver. Stay within groups where you actually have the possibility of climbing to the top, and surround yourself with people where you are towards the top of that social hierarchy. And that's how you achieve happiness, because happiness is actually relative. Yes, there's somebody out there who's 6'4" and a millionaire who sleeps with a bunch of models. Yes, there's a Dan Bilzerian. But if you just surround yourself with people where you are on average better than them, your relative status will be higher, and that will trick your brain into being happy. So, for example, if I'm a 5 out of 10, I shouldn't be browsing these forums, coping and thinking that I can somehow become a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. I should accept my genetic destiny, go to school, get a STEM degree, get an accounting degree, some sort of stable job that can lead to a six-figure income. Try to be the best student. Try to save money, start putting money aside, investing intelligently, having an emergency savings fund. All those things so that I can eventually play the long game and attract a partner by showing how, stable, reliable, and, ambitious and dependable I am, and that I can offer her a certain lifestyle. Because if you fall into that category, you have to play the long game. You're not going to be the guy that goes to the party and hooks up with the girl because he can create some visceral attraction in her from his, deep voice and height and jawline. You're not going to be able to ever do that. You need to play the long game. Surround yourself. You should never be friends with people that mog you. That's like one of the first things. Never be friends with people that mog you. Surround yourself with people where you can climb to the top of that social hierarchy. That's going to open more dating opportunities for you, first of all. And you're just going to be much happier because, again, how humans derive happiness is it's relative. We compare ourselves to the people around us. We don't compare ourselves to, Elon Musk or Henry Cavill. This is actually very true. Have you noticed that? Just look at your job. Does it bother you that your boss makes 5 times as much as you? Probably not. But when your coworker makes $3 more than you, it actually bothers you a lot. Isn't that funny how that works? Because you just subconsciously know that you and you're like a CEO of your company are not even in the same league. So you're only comparing yourself to people that are in your league. So if you're a young guy and you clicked on this and you're browsing these forums and you feel depressed and you're a doomer, you're coping. And you need to accept your inherent role in society and do that to the best of its ability. And that's how you will achieve happiness. Either do that or quit the game entirely. I'm not saying hurt yourself. I don't promote that. I'm saying just either do that or just quit. But don't do this in-between thing where you're just like super miserable and you make everybody around you miserable and you're browsing these forums 24/7, because that's actually the worst chess move. So, we all have to kind of go through, we all have to figure out where we, sort of rank in society. So I understand if you're a young guy, you are going to have that phase, you are going to do a lot of stupid stuff, especially when alcohol is combined in there. But there comes a point where you're no longer a young man, and it's time to grow up and accept reality, because you only have one life. And whether you spend it being miserable and trying to be somebody you're not, or whether you accept what you're destined to and fulfill that destiny to the best of your ability, is up to you, because life is going to pass you by either way. So, yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. And, thanks for listening as always.